Hi guys, welcome back. So today, what are we doing? I'm so excited. This video is going to be my Winterween 2025 Readathon read-along, I guess. I'm so excited. This is the first time I've ever done a readathon in my life, so I'm really excited about it. I'm glad that I did it. As you can probably tell, this is Angel from the future. I gotta get better at making these intros before I make my video because this is crazy. But regardless, we're going to be talking about the 4 books that I'm going to be reading for the Winterween 2025 readathon. It was an amazing thing. I'm so glad I got to do it. This is hosted by Gabby Reads. I love this. I plan to do these again in the future because it was so much fun. It actually makes me want to do more readathons in the future. I was potentially looking at doing Jan's readathon that she's got going next month, but I've got to see what my schedule's looking like at the time, so we'll see how we feel about that. But it looks really fun. Hers is like a seven circles of hell type of thing. From Dante's Inferno. It's Jan's Inferno. So it looks really cool. I love anything like that, so might do that. But for this video, we're doing Gabby Reads Winterween 2025 Readathon. Like I said, we have 4 books that we're reading for this readathon. There were 5 prompts. Prompt number 1 was read a book in the dark or at night. So I've done that for a lot of the books because reading it in the afternoon and evening is pretty much the only time I have time to read now that I'm back at work full time. So we did that a few times. For prompt number 2, it's going to be read a horror or thriller book. I actually decided to fulfill that prompt with this book, Good Girl, Bad Blood. So this is the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. So we'll be seeing that fulfilling prompt number 2 for read a thriller. Prompt number 3 was to read a book with a house on the cover or the word house in the title. So I actually chose to finish reading We Used to Live Here. I started this in my November-December reading vlog that I recently posted and never finished it. So we get to finish it in this vlog. I promise you, it's an up and down kind of time. So definitely watch along to see how this one goes and what my final rating was. Then for prompt number 4. Prompt number 4 was to read a book that was published 5 or more years ago that was a horror book. So for that book, I chose to read Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. I've had this on my TBR for 2 years at this point. This was something that was recommended to me on Instagram, on Bookstagram at some point. So we read Stolen Tongues in this vlog as well. And then the last prompt, prompt number 5, was to read a novella, manga, or listen to a spooky audiobook. So for this prompt, I actually got Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. And so we're gonna read that in this vlog and see how that goes. So I hope you guys enjoy this vlog. I hope that you enjoy seeing me go through the journey of reading all of these books. I will say, as I'm recording this for the future, I already know that one of my clips got corrupted and I lost the audio for a lot of me reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Book 2, Good Girl, Bad Blood. So to kind of succinct where we were before I started recording at 85% of the way in, the book was going really well in the beginning. I was really enjoying it. I thought everything was working out really well. I loved some of the things that they were doing in the beginning of the book where they recap a lot of the things from the first book, but do it in a way that's not just like, and last time on Glee, here's what you missed, you know? It was very much like because she has the podcast, you get to follow that storyline. And so we use the podcast to fill in the narrative and see where we were left off from the previous book and this book, which was really great for me because I actually read Good Girl Guide to Murder Book 1 almost 2 years ago at this point. I read it for a book club at my job, and because of that, I didn't remember a lot of it. I remember the main point of the book, but a lot of the detail kind of lost it. So reading book 2 and then bringing up all of the things at the beginning of the book about here's where we were, here's where we left off was really, really helpful for me. So we're gonna get to see where Angel was at 85% of the way in because unfortunately, like I said, the video got corrupted. So from here, I will let past Angel take over. Okay, so I made it to my destination and I listened to more of the book, so I'm officially 85% of the way in. I think I'm going to finish this by the time I get home today, which is really exciting because I have so many other books to read for this readathon, but it's going well. I've been trying to guess what's happening or what's going to happen. It's a lot harder than I anticipated. I can't exactly guess what's going to happen, but it is still really good. I love these books. I love the series. I will continue to keep reading this series just because I think it's fun.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
It's low stakes. It doesn't take a lot of brain power to read, so I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, I'm listening to it on Audible while I'm driving, but I do have a physical copy at home. So yeah, it's been really good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna try and listen to I think there's one more book in the series, so I'll probably listen to that at some point in the near future. Not this month, because I have a lot of things to read this month, but I think it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. Fun little thriller, fun, silly little goofy time. Nothing too high stakes, so I'm loving that about this readathon. I love that I'm actually reading things that I wouldn't have read without it, or that I had on my TBR that I now have a reason to read. So I think that's really cool about doing things like this. I will be, hopefully before this, I've already shown what my TBR for this readathon is, so yeah, we'll be moving on to our next book soon. I think we're going to be finishing We Used to Live Here as my next book. That one is going to be the book for the prompt for House. So I'm excited to get back into that and get that one finished as well. So anyway, once I finish this, I'll give my final thoughts, but super excited, having a great time. So it is now Monday the 13th. It's been 2 days since I finished Good Girl's Guide to Murder. One, sorry if it's echoey in here. I'm in the bathroom about to straighten my hair. And also sorry if you can hear my baby's mobile because she's trying to take a nap. So like I said, it's been 2 days since I finished A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And if I'm being really honest, now that I've had time and distance from the book, I don't know that I think it was as good as I thought. Originally, I was going to give it a 4.5 rating, but upon reflection of what I read and how the book ended specifically, I'm moving it to a 4. The reason being, I'll try and explain this without spoiling the book, but basically the reason being is that the ending had nothing at all to do with anything we learned during them like trying to figure out what happened to this person and like where they went. I never was going to figure it out. I was never going to guess it because it came out of complete left field at like 85-90% of the way through the book. That's when like this new theory came out and this whole like new side of things that had not been even like remotely discussed was like brought to the forefront, and we were told like this is why Jamie had been taken and this is the person who did it, and we know exactly who that person is because of some silly situation that happened in the very beginning of the book, and that was the mystery. And it was just like completely left field. It had nothing to do with anything at all. We had gone through all this stuff to figure out all these people's like life secrets, and just to get to the end and be like, oh, by the way, everyone's everything had nothing to do with this case whatsoever. And I just feel like that was a really big cop-out, honestly. It just felt like a cop-out. Like, you could have done any number of things. I had my own theory of like what I thought was gonna happen and how it was gonna end. And like, I never was gonna be on the right track because none of the clues we were given throughout the entire book were anything. They had nothing to do with the ending at all. Like, not one thing. And that's just crazy to me. Like, I don't know. And the way that they came to understanding what the actual like motive was and like who the actual person was and like all of these things, like the way they got to that conclusion was so like, huh? And then like, it was just so easy. It was so cheap and easy. And that was lame to me. I don't know, y'all. I just felt like a lame ass ending. And now I'm standing here about it, the more I'm like, is it a 3? Maybe a 3. And do I want to be nice? And like, what is the reason for that? I don't know, y'all. That was so lame. Like, with the last book, it was so much more possible to come to the conclusion of who did what in the end, who was involved, because we were at least orbiting the people that were involved in the last book, in book 1. In book 2, like, we're not even, like, I'm telling you, we're not even a little bit close to understanding who could have potentially done this. Like, there's no, it's literally impossible to have guessed, like, oh, it was this person for this reason, for these things. Like, you're never gonna guess it, ever. Not ever one time will you guess the ending. Like, I wanna look up reviews for this now and see like what other people were saying about this book, because yeah, that was not good. Like, that wasn't good. That was lazy writing, in my opinion. You couldn't even find a way to try and bring up this situation. And there was no way that the person who it was in the situation that brought it there would ever have been brought up, because the situation that got them there was decades old and from a completely different place. Like, it had happened all in a different place. So we never ever would have gotten even close to being like, oh, it's because of this. Like, there's just literally zero way that we ever would have figured it out on our own. Like, it was not a murder mystery that a regular person would have been like, oh, I'm reading this and context clues and here's the answer. It was so lame. I think I'm gonna bump it down to a 3.5 because I did enjoy what I read and everything, but the ending ruined it. Like, the ending really ruined it by like a significant 1 star. It significantly diminished it by a whole star. So, I don't know. My rating just went from a 4.5 to a 3.5. I've got to go amend my rating because of how it ended. And I'm sticking with that 3.5 stars for Good Girl's Guide to Murder, book 2. So, on to other things. I have been reading We Used to Live Here. I am about, I want to say like 40% of the way through the book now. This is also like, I feel like it's kind of lame also. And I don't know, like, I'm kind of baffled how this book is like everyone's favorite book of the year for horror. So far, I'm not seeing it. Like, some things about the book are definitely unsettling and disturbing, but I'm still not like getting this like, wow, best book I've ever read vibe from it. I'm kind of bored. I kind of could care less about paying attention to what's really happening and all the like minor details of this book. I am still doing the tandem reading, so I'm listening to it on audio and reading it at the same time because of the like Morse code and the nuances of things. But like, I don't know, I feel like the characters, the main characters, like the homeowners of this book are just dumb. Like, they're making dumb choices and dumb decisions, and like, how are y'all shocked that we got where we got so far? Like, that's the part that I don't get. Like, y'all can't be surprised that we're here. And the end of this book, this is where we're at. Because I'm not shocked. Like, I'm not even a little bit shocked that like we are at this like weird situation in this book because of everyone's decisions that they keep making. And like, some of the conversations that are being had, just like, a lot of it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm just like, people would not do this in real life. Like, what's happening in this book would not happen in real life, in my opinion. There's a part in the book where these people are in their house, they're having dinner with them, and the people, well, I guess a synopsis of what this is meant to be about. This family comes to this house and they're like, hey, we used to live here. The father used to live there, and he's like, hey, can I give the tour of this house to my family? I used to live here at one point. And the main character, I believe her name's like Eve or Evie or Eva, I don't remember. She's like, I don't know, she doesn't know how to say no to things, I guess. And she doesn't like confrontation, and she doesn't know how to like stand up for herself, I guess is the point of this book. And so she basically is like, let me talk to my wife. And she can't get a hold of her wife, so she's like, fine, just for a little while. These people come in and one of their kids goes missing in the house, and that's all like basically the synopsis of the book, so no spoilers in that. But like I said, there's a scene in the book where they're eating dinner together, and this dude's wife is supposed to be like very spiritual. She's like, I don't know, she just seems, apparently she's supposed to be spiritual from the context clues that they give you in the book of her like having a cross and having like special tattoos and like all of these things. Like she's supposed to be a spiritual person. And like they're having dinner, and this woman like out of nowhere just asks these two women, do your family know, like she asks the main character who lets them in the house, like, does your family, are they religious? She says yes, explains like what kind of religious they are. And then the lady's like, do they approve of your lifestyle? And eventually it gets to the point where like her partner jumps in and she's like, hey, what the fuck? Like, why are you asking these questions? Like, it's kind of rude. And the husband's like, babe, stop, back off. And I'm just like, who would do this? Like, what strangers would go into a person's home and just start asking them questions about if your parents agree with you being homosexuals? Like, that's not happening, right? Like, I could never in 1,000 years see someone like legitimately doing that. Like some lay person going into someone else's home that you don't belong in, you've already outstayed your welcome in, and you're like, hey, by the way, I think you guys being gay is like against God and you're sinners. Like, especially when they're being hospitable towards you. Like, they made dinner for you and your stupid fucking family. Like, excuse my language. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't feel like real people would do this. It doesn't feel real to me. It doesn't seem real to me. All the things that are happening in this book are so far-fetched. I just don't see someone behaving the way that these people are behaving in this book. Whether that be the homeowner or the people who are visiting the home. I just don't see real people behaving this way. So, all that to say, I'm gonna finish the other side of my hair now, and I'm going to continue reading the book audio while I do my hair. So yeah, that was my update so far. We still have to read Stolen Tongues, Rest Stop, and I believe that's it for this vlog. So we'll get to those soon. We gotta do a Reading in the Dark episode soon, so I'm really excited for that. I'll probably do that, if not tonight, tomorrow. I do have to go back to work on Friday. I've been on maternity leave this whole time, and I go back on Friday, and I don't want to. I don't want to work. I wish I didn't have to, but unfortunately, we can't afford our lifestyle if one of us doesn't work, and I am the insurance provider in our family, so I have to have my job, but I just want it to be known that I don't want to, but it's okay. It'll be fine. Hopefully everything works out. So anyway, that's a different topic. So I will see you guys in a little while with an update. So it's day 4 of Winterween, and if you can't tell by this poorly lit video, today I'm going to be reading more of We Used to Live Here, but in the dark. It's not really dark. It's dark outside. It's pitch black outside. But in here, I have the lights on so that you can actually see me for the purpose of filming this, but I will be reading it in the dark shortly. I have a reading light, so I'll put that on after I film this, because obviously you can't see me if it's completely dark. But yeah, so we're still reading We Used to Live Here. Honestly, my true thoughts on this, we are 100 pages in to We Used to Live Here, and if I'm being completely honest, I'm just not one of the girls, and I just don't get it, and I don't love that feeling. I want to be a part. I want to have a silly, goofy, haha laugh time with you guys about this book, and I'm a third of the way in and I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm not seeing it. I don't understand what everyone's so obsessed with. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. At this point, this book's giving me 3-star vibes. Like, it's okay. It's not the best thing I've ever read, and it's not really keeping my attention. It's just, something about the narration of this, like the characters, like, talking about herself and the understanding of how she feels about herself and all of that, like, I don't get it. I don't think it's amazing. I think she sounds uninteresting. Like, it just doesn't sound good. It's not a good book. I'm not liking it. I'm not liking the dumb decisions that they're making that just feel dumb. They don't feel right. The way that they're doing things in this book and the decisions that are being made in this book, I feel like I have to almost take myself out of reality and be like, okay, like, these are just regular, like, characters. These aren't real people. This is not a real people kind of book because of the way that these characters are behaving, because I just feel like real people wouldn't make these decisions. That's just me. Maybe there are people in the world who think like this and do things like this and act this way. I can't relate. And maybe that's just what the problem is. Like, I can't relate to any of these characters. Like, not one of them. And, like, this story has, like, a paranormal element to it. So, like, that's maybe why I'm missing the plot. But, like, I don't know. I want to read some of these blurbs on the back to see if they tell me anything. So we have Nick Cutter's blurb, the author of The Troop. There's a feeling that a small number of books conjure. It can be distilled to, oh God, something ain't right here. Their hallmark is a creeping, unaccountable, jangly dread that seeps into their pages until you almost wish you could stop reading. But of course, it's too late. You're in the grip. We Used to Live Here is one of those rare books. Yeah, I don't feel that. Maybe this is one of those books you have to read at one time. Like, you can't stop reading it. You have to, like, just read through and then it'll give you that. Alma Katsu, the author of Fervor, said, inventive and genuinely scary, We Used to Live Here is the most impressive horror debut I've read in a long time. Marcus is a talent to watch. It's not impressive to me yet, and it's not genuinely scary at all. So maybe we're gonna get there. Full of unease and stomach-churning dread, We Used to Live Here creeps up on to you like a sly shadow. I wanted to look away, I absolutely could not. Marcus is destined to become a titan of macabre and unsettling. Read this with every single light on. Well, I'm not doing that. Sorry, Aaron Craig, author of House of Salt and Sorrows. I'm doing it with all the lights off. That's the plan anyway. So I guess that's it. It's a slow burn. I don't like gradual creepiness. I want to be creeped from the beginning. I want to start out creeped. And this isn't giving me that vibe. And that maybe is the problem. So I guess I just have to keep going. What I would love nothing more than is at the end of this reading adventure, I turn around and go, you guys, I was wrong. I'm a silly, goofy girl, and this is the best book I've ever read. That's what I want to do. So that's my goal, to get to the end of this book and go, ooh, best book ever. I want to be like the rest of these people and be like, yes, best book of my life. I would never have read it. I would read it 17 times if I could unsee this situation. Because that is one of the things. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be one of those horror books that once you've read it, you can't reread it and have a sensation about it. I think it's going to be one of those things that once you've uncovered the secret, you can't go back, which I don't love, but it's because I feel like this is giving me more of like a horror thriller vibe than it's giving me like a horror vibe. Like, I don't know, but maybe that's just me. It's kind of reminding me of Paul Tremblay's A Head Full of Ghosts, but not as good. And if that tells you anything, I love Paul Tremblay. This is not giving me the good vibes of A Head Full of Ghosts. It is giving me those vibes that it is a unsettling, creepy situation that you're just like, oh my God, what the heck is going on here? But this is doing it too slowly. It's taking too long. We're moving too slow for my liking. So anyway, I'm gonna finish reading this and I will see you guys for my update. Hopefully I have an update in the next 50 to 100 pages, which I hope to get to tonight, potentially. If not, first thing in the morning, because I really need to finish this book tomorrow, honestly. I need to finish this book tomorrow, because I have 2 more books to read still. Thankfully, both of them I think are kind of short stories, so hopefully I can finish them quickly, but I do have 2 more books to read before Winterween is over. Hopefully by Sunday the 19th, I've read all of these books that I'm supposed to be reading for this Winterween vlog. Anyway, I'll see y'all for my next update. 70% of the way through this book, and I don't want to say I'm eating my words about not liking this book so far, but I am gonna say it's interesting now. It's gotten interesting now. The issue I have, though, is it took me 50% of the way through this book for me to finally be like, okay, now I get it. And I don't love when that happens. If you watched my vlog, sorry y'all, my daughter's down there playing and she's smiling at me. And it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. If y'all watched my vlog from Wednesday, you'll know that I don't love when a book takes 50% of the way for me to start like enjoying it, or for me to feel like something's happening or not happening. I don't like when the story takes that long to like really take off. I do think this book did better in this regard than Wilder Girls. Again, I still don't see it. I don't see what everybody loved about that book, but that's neither here nor there. This is doing a better job than Wilder Girls in the sense that there were interesting things happening, at least in the first half of the book, but it does still do the thing of like, we have to set up a lot of background before we can make things start happening. So there's a lot of like building. I will say they did a better job of it with this book as well because of the mixed media in this book, which I absolutely love. I love the transcripts. I love like the little like news articles or forum posts. I love seeing that in this. I do think I am a mixed media in books kind of girly. I think that's just something I like. I think it makes it interesting. It adds a little spice to the book in the sense that like I'm not just reading a page and a page and a page. It's something different. The font looks different. Like I think that's one of the things I did like about Misery also. Has nothing to do with this vlog, but when I read Misery, seeing his like typed out words in the really cool. I thought it was a cool addition to the story. So I do like that change up of maybe seeing like handwriting or a different font or a different style because we're getting a different type of perspective, but not just in a typical like POV this person, chapter 4. Like I like the way that they're doing it with this book. I'm enjoying it now that we're I think I'm like 75% of the way through the book already. I am enjoying it now. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star though. I don't think that. And unless something remarkable happens, I think right now we're sitting at a 4, maybe a 3.5. Am I being spicy? I think I'm being spicy about this book, but it's how I feel. And I'm being honest. I'm always going to be honest about how I really feel about a book. So maybe on reflection, maybe seeing how the ending goes, I don't know, but the stuff that's happening right now, I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like, I like the idea of not knowing what's going on with this narrator and not knowing, like, is she having a reliable experience or not? That was something that I loved about Dearest as well. That same kind of like unreliable narrator thing happens in Dearest. And I think that's something I'm starting to realize I like because I noticed it in Dearest. I'm seeing it in this. And I think I do like that because I like the psychology of it all. For those who don't know, I am a psychology major. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2024 in psychology. So I love psychology. I love all things about it. And so I think that having that unreliable narrator thing like makes me like, ooh, what is it? Could it be this? Could it be that? Like it makes me really think about things. So anyway, all that to say, 75% of the way through, I'm liking it. I will come back probably when I'm finished, unless there's something major that happens that I need to talk about, but I'll see you guys when we're done. Hello again. Okay, so we have a mount now, so I can drive and record at the same time. I won't look at the camera because I am driving, but I wanted to talk about my progress for Winterween. So I have finished We Used to Live Here, and my rating was a 3.5. I just still don't see it. I don't see what everyone else sees. I don't get what everyone else is all kerfuffled about for that book. I don't think it was bad. Like, I do not think it was a bad book at all. I just don't think that it was all that enthralling. And maybe the problem is, and this is something that I'm thinking about also for other books right now, maybe the problem is that there was so much hype around the book that I just expected it to be the best thing since sliced bread. And because it was not, I was like, I just had my hopes up too high. Because again, like all the feedback I kept hearing was, this is the best horror book since, or there's the best horror book of 2024. Like, that's the commentary I kept hearing throughout the entirety of this book being out. And so because of that, I'm just thinking all of the time, like, okay, this is going to be the best book then. This is the best book ever. There's never been a book that's as good as this one. And that's what it's going to be. Like, wow, I found my favorite book of 2024. Like, that's how I feel like everyone hyped this book up to be. I feel like We Used to Live Here is just kind of an average horror book. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it did have some like good twisty turny parts. The ending was good. I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the ending quite well. I just think that the book was kind of average. It was just kind of mid to me. Again, it took me way too long to finish that book. Keeping in mind, of course, a lot of the time it took me to finish the book was because I'm a new mom, balancing new mom life. So that's hard on its own, but it still was just, you know, it was tough. I did go through, so this is spoilers. I'm going to put a white box around the spoiler section here so that anybody who hasn't read the book and you want to read it, I don't want to spoil it for you. So until the white box goes away, I'll be talking about spoilers. I did go through the book, and in the book, there was spots where there was Morse code on the transcript pieces of the book. So inside there were certain sections where it was like transcriptions or articles or interviews, things like that throughout the book. And at the end of almost all of them, there was Morse code that was happening. And you can hear it if you listen to the audiobook. If you have the physical book, you'll see the Morse code at the bottom. And when I was reading it originally, I had realized that it was Morse code, and I looked up what it said. And so after I finished the book, I went through and transcribed all the Morse code, and it ended up reading something along the lines of, the old man in the cabin has lived there for centuries and goes by many names. That's what it ended up transcribing out to. So obviously, if you've read the book, you know what that means as far as the ending is concerned. And then there was also a spot in the book where they had a transcription for a psychology report on, it was about the psychology report about people who believed that there had been switched or something to that effect. And there were spots in it that were in Norwegian because it was a Norway article, and they had like made a note that side, like footnote 1, this was scribbled in the margins, but it was all in Norwegian, so they didn't transcribe it in the actual audiobook. So I went on Google and I transcribed the Norwegian. That was horror, what was written there. So I thought that was really cool. I thought those pieces were really cool. That was like that was one of my favorite parts of the books, was just how interactive it was. I think that was really fun. But otherwise, I didn't really like, the story wasn't all that compelling to me. It was very much left open-ended and not really like explained as to what was going on. So, I mean, kind of and kind of not, right? If you've read the book, you know what I mean. But either way, I think it was good. I just don't think it was my favorite. And that's okay. I'm allowed to not love everything everybody else loves, which is also very me. It's a very, very me coded. I don't always love the same things that everybody else does. Now, it is the last day of Winterween, and I have 2 books to read. So I am reading Stolen Tongues, and then I'm also reading Rest Stop. Stolen Tongues, I have a physical copy on my Kindle as well as the audiobook, so I'm going to tandem read that because I enjoy doing tandem reads. I think it also will be more fun because it's such a spooky, scary book, and I'm so excited to get into it. And then I'm physically reading Rest Stop. I have the actual physical book, so I'm going to read that. I've already started Rest Stop so far. I'm loving it. I have read one book by Nat Cassidy that was Mary, and I know a lot of the girlies loved that book. I DNF'd it. I started it, and I think I probably got maybe a third of the way into the book, and it just wasn't getting my attention. It wasn't keeping me. It just felt like a lot of allegories about things, and I really wasn't there for that at the time. So I ended up DNFing Mary, and I haven't read anything else by Nat Cassidy until now. I wanted to try and read some other books, but knowing how Mary went for me, I was just kind of like, do I actually want to read other Nat Cassidys? Is he for me? And that's a true thing. Like, I hate when I'm not able to be a part of the group and hang out with everybody else, but like, maybe that's just how it is. So anyway, I'm gonna end the car vlog here. We're gonna go read, and I'll be back with an update on both of the books today. So talk to y'all soon. Bye. Okay. I didn't look up anything about this book. I didn't look up anything at all about this book. And chapter 6, that's what I was just reading, was chapter 6. That was terrifying. That's my phobia, chapter 6. Holy crap. Yuck. Okay, guys. So, first of all, you don't see that. What Christmas tree in January 16th? No Christmas tree. Don't look over there. I still have all my Christmas decorations up. I haven't put them down. Whatever. Moving on. I'm reading Readathon. I'm almost through. I'm on page 80 of, I think it's 124. So it's almost over. I only have 44 pages to go. Y'all, this is such a good book. I'm upset that I waited until now to get this and read. This is so good. Especially after reading Good Girl, Bad Blood and We Used to Live Here. This is a breath of fresh air and everything I've ever wanted in a book all of a sudden. I know earlier I said I've never read a book or finished a book, rather, by Nat Cassidy. But this novella, I love it so much, aside from chapter 6, because that was way too much for me and my phobia. As a spooky girl, I do have fears, and chapter 6 is a fear. That's terrifying. Anyway, other than that, this book is so good, y'all. It's so good. I'm surprised that I haven't heard more hype about this book, and to be honest, I have heard good things from people when they've said they've read it, but like, that's all. And maybe it's because you can't really talk about what's happening in here without spoiling the entire book, but like, it's so good. I love it. This might, dare I say, this might be my favorite book of the month. Probably, because let's be real, I'm not reading anything else new this year or this month. I'm reading Onyx Storm, but I don't anticipate that being the best book I've read this month because Iron Flame wasn't all that great, but that's not what we're here about. We're here about this book. And I think this book might be my favorite book of the year. We're still gonna read Stolen Tongues. I am behind though. It's 5:30 p.m. I'm probably not gonna finish Stolen Tongues today. I'll probably end up finishing it tomorrow, but I am gonna try. Like I said, I'm almost done with Rest Stop, so as soon as I'm done with this, jumping into Stolen Tongues. But I love this so much. I want more of this. However you bottle something like this up, give me other book I need other book recs for books like this. I need other books like Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. And what I mean by that is not graphic, not extreme horror books. That's not what I mean. I don't mean novellas. That's too generic also. What I mean is I need more books with descriptions that make me go, this is, and not in the way of like, oh my God, what am I reading? Like, it's not extreme horror in that way. It's just like the way that it's explained, the way that the words are, I'm telling y'all, this is me. This is my personality now. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, I'm not done. I still need to finish it. So hopefully I'm not eating my words too soon. Like I said, still 44 pages to go, but y'all, it's beautiful. This is good. So good. It's so good. If you haven't read it, read it. It's 124 pages. It's not even gonna take you that long. Read the book. Read this book. If you want to read a horror book, read this book. If you want to just read something short and sweet, read this book. If you want something with beautiful descriptive language that makes you feel like you're in this space with the character and you can see and feel everything they see and feel, read this book. I don't really care what you do as long as you read this book. I don't think I've hyped up a book so much in my life. Please don't read this and be like, Angel, I hate it and you're a terrible reviewer of books, because that'll make me sad. But y'all, this book is so good. I do love it. I think it's great. So highly recommend to the girlies out there who want my recommendations, read this book. Please, for the love of everything, read this book. Just read it. If you haven't, read it. It's not that expensive. It's not that long. Get it, read it. It's good. That's it. That's all I have to say. Oh, I can't wait to put this on my shelf of 2025 5-star reads. I know it's going to be. I just do. I just know it. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go finish reading. It's just been me for 7 minutes straight gushing about a book. Like, what are you doing here? What are we doing here? Anyway, here we go. I'm back. Sorry for the bad lighting, but we're just chit-chatting on the couch about books. I finished Rest Stop. I fear Rest Stop is going to officially be one of my top books of 2025. I feel like I should just say it now. I feel like that's just what it is. Oh my God, that was so good. And I think it was perfect for me too as a Nat Cassidy book because it was digestible when it wasn't as digestible in Mary for me. It was just so drawn out. And so it felt like, okay, we're describing something way too much for my liking. But because this was only 124 pages, it was so good. I loved it. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. Obviously, that wasn't abundantly clear. I love it, guys. I love it so much. I love it so much. So now, moving on to reading the final book of Winterween, which is Stolen Tongues, which I'm reading at nighttime. It's not necessarily in the dark because I can't right now, but I probably will be finishing it in the dark because I got at least 4 hours left of that book. And it's already 8:30 and I have work at 7. I have to wake up at 7 a.m. So hopefully we can finish it in time. I think that we can, and it still count as part of my reading for Winterween. So I'm gonna go get started on that so I can get that done. We've already started reading it. So far so good, but I don't really have thoughts yet. So once I have some thoughts, I will come back and let you guys know. I've had this book on my TBR for over a year. It's been almost 2 years, I think, that I've had this on my TBR. I don't remember who the first person was that recommended. I think it might have been, I don't remember. I think it was Instagram. I think I got it from a recommendation from Instagram. Yeah, I'm ready to read it. I'm ready to get it off my TBR because it's been on my Kindle TBR for 2 years at this point. So let's get into it. Let's go. I'll stop ranting and raving about Rest Stop, but I will say, like I said in the last clip, if you haven't read it, please go read it. It's so good. Nat Cassidy, take all my money to write more horror novellas like that, because that was, oh, perfect. Just, I can't stop and I won't, okay? And maybe I won't. All right, I will see y'all with an update on Stolen Tongues. I finished reading Stolen Tongues a few days ago. And unfortunately, I just never got around to being able to record my feelings or my thoughts on this book. And honestly, I'm kind of grateful that it took me a little while to get to this, because I'm learning about myself through this journey that I need at least a day or two to process my feelings about a book. I can't just give my initial, like, and this is how I feel thoughts, because with a day or two's, like, separation, I have a lot more clarity about what I read and how I feel about it. So, with Stolen Tongues, I read this one. I thought it was good. I don't think there was anything wrong with this book. I quite enjoyed it. I had a great time. It was very spooky. I did do a tandem read of this one. It's becoming my thing. I'm enjoying tandem reading books. I love the combination of an audiobook with the actual book. It's just more fun for me. It's more immersive, and I really love that. I typically am someone who listens to ambiance in the background while I read, so having just the audiobook itself is better. I will say having the audiobook for this was amazing, because the person who narrated this audiobook for Stolen Tongues was phenomenal. The acting that they did with their voices and changing their voices and the tone of voice, it made it even more spooky. Reading this with the audiobook at night was very spooky. It was a really good time. As for how I feel about the book itself, the story was meh. It was just kind of meh. I'm gonna be honest. I thought that it was interesting in the beginning, but the middle half of the book just kind of got really redundant for me. We were just doing the same thing over and over in different settings, repeating the same kind of story and situation, and it just kind of got boring in a way, to the point that I kind of caught myself zoning out at some points. So that's kind of my true and honest thoughts about Stolen Tongues. With that, I ended up giving it a 3-star rating. I just kind of think it was middle of the road for me. I don't know if that's because it's an older book, and so because of at the time, maybe it was, if I had read it back then, I would have thought it was more amazing than I do now. But as of right now and where I am currently, I just thought it was kind of meh. It was a 300 and something page book that didn't really feel like it needed to be that long. I honestly felt like the story could have been a novella. It could have been a lot shorter and had this like really cool spooky effect to it, in my opinion. Everything that was added to this conversation in the end was just kind of meh. And the ending was also very meh. It wasn't as high stakes as I expected it to be. We're on this journey with this couple where this creepy thing is happening to them, and we're trying to figure out why this creepy thing is happening and what it means. And when we finally find out what the meaning of all of this is, it's just kind of lackluster. The other part that I was kind of like not super, I don't know, it was kind of weird for me, was the idea that the author was writing a book about Native Americans in this kind of spooky, eerie way that I just was not, and I don't know. It made me feel weird, honestly. I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel weird. I am not Native myself at all, but I know, like, there's just something about reading writing from someone who is not of that community that you can kind of tell sometimes, and just the way that it is written is just kind of, I don't know, just kind of weird. It kind of rubbed me weird. I will give the author props that at the end of the book they do talk about this and talk about why he wrote a book about natives and featuring natives and native legends in his book, and how he went about doing that in the most ethical way he thought possible, and asking people for their opinions about doing this, and then deciding to do it irregardless of people's opinions. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how I felt about it. But all in all, before even thinking about that piece, I still feel like the story was very meh. So in the end, Stolen Tongues got a 3-star for me. So to recap my ratings for all of the books, so we had Good Girl Bad Blood, which came in at a 3.5 On reflection, I really feel like it should be like a 2.5. But I think I ended up giving it a 3.5, so that's good girl, bad blood. I know at the beginning of this vlog, I said I was going to continue the series, and I think I'm not. After reading this, I think I'm not, because this book disappointed me so much. So that's my rating for this. Next, we finished reading We Used to Live Here, and this also was a 3.5 star. Again, recapping, it just wasn't for me, I don't think. I think that there were some things that were done well, but overall, the way that the characters were written was just so unbelievable. And that was my biggest flaw with this book. The characters are unbelievable. Minor flaw, the plot makes no sense, and some points where we're introduced to certain ideas and themes that we don't see repeated or that we never get answers to. And so it's kind of got holes. It's got a lot of character weirdness that I just I couldn't get past it. And I know it's a fictional book, and I know it's about science fiction, and so who cares if the characters are realistic, but I did care. And this isn't it for me. Next, we read Rest Stop, and again, 5 stars. This was the 5-star of the year. This is my first one of 2025. This book is amazing. You're not going to hear me stop talking about this. This will be brought up many, many more times from now. Because of reading this, I actually plan to read more novellas, because am I a novella girly? Is that where I need to be in the horror genre? Maybe, because this was delicious. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I'm never going to stop talking about it. And then last but not least, Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. This was a 3-star. So in the end, we read 4 books. Only one of them made it a 5-star. The others were 3 stars or less. And that's kind of meh for the readathon, but I did enjoy actually reading books that were on my TBR that I've been meaning to read for a very long time, but also finishing books that I was supposed to have finished forever ago and finally finishing them, and also getting a new book and finding a 5-star favorite. So that's really exciting. I'm glad that I did this. Overall, such a wonderful experience. We did it. We completed the readathon. I'm so proud and so happy that I did that. It was something that I really wanted to do and something that I was really excited to do. I've never done anything like this, like I said in the beginning. So this was really fun for me. I had a great time. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the books that I read, seeing the ratings that I ended up giving some of them, and I hope that that all was great and went well. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I would love to have you guys in my community here. Also, if you made it to the end, leave me a comment down below. Have you read any of these books? Did you participate in Winterween 2025? Would you participate in the future now that you've seen it? Maybe you hadn't heard of it before. I would love to hear from you guys. Also, if you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know. And again, it was amazing having this time with y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!